Hi, everybody. It's Taylor. Thank you for tuning in today. We are going to be reviewing performance management strategies. So it's January right now. I don't know when you all will be viewing this video, but it's January 2023. January, great time for New Year's resolutions, goal setting, performance management, conversations. Getting ourselves kind of brushing off the dust of last year, resetting, evaluating what worked, what didn't work, identifying goals, and then just running with it. So I love this time of year. I think it's a great time to just reset, renew, build off of our successes and kind of move forward. So I want to get you in goal setting mode. I want us to focus in this training and on our next training on specific performance management strategies. I think as managers, you are all very experienced. You're all very effective with your team. You have great rapport with your team members, which is a key part of helping them in terms of achieving their goals and achieving your, the company's goals as well as your department's goals. So that's all great. But performance management itself can be tricky, and especially in the busy retail environment that we live in. So I wanted to give you some tangible tools. I want to respect your time. So I did this by video so that you could watch this when it is a good opportunity for you and we don't have to all be on a set schedule. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to send you out some materials after this. I'm going to send the presentation that we used last year for this. And then we're going to build off of this presentation in the next coming weeks. So today we're talking about performance management strategies. This training was based off of a book that I read last year that kind of went over the philosophy behind moving away from just using annual performance reviews to, move the needle with employee performance and really getting into a more strategic approach. The author had a lot of research and a lot of ideas about the whys of this program, why it works, why it's more effective. I want to try to summarize that as best as I can for you. I did scan and upload a lot of the resources that were provided in this book. There are checklists in terms of questions that are good to have good focused conversations with your employees. There are questions that you can provide your employee to help them better prepare for performance-related conversations. There are good prompts and questions to help when you have to have a conversation with an employee who is maybe struggling or a difficult situation, as well as a lot of different forms that you could use to try to simplify your ability to keep track of these conversations. So I'm not going to read all those forms to you. I'm just going to send them out to you, but I do ask that you review them, find what works for you, and go from there. So annual reviews, that's what we've always gone to for when we think of performance management. Every company has annual reviews. We are going to continue to have annual reviews. They are great. What their reasons they're not fully effective in terms of moving the needle with your performance, either for yourself or for individuals. It's too infrequent. There's usually pressure that the review, you're covering a lot, you have to be positive. They might be up for a promotion or a compensation change. And so as a manager, there's a lot of different motives going on. You want to be nice, you want to be supportive, you want to be constructive, but you don't want to be too constructive because you don't want to position them poorly. So it's a high stake conversation. And that makes it difficult to really, get into the nuts and bolts of some of those behaviors and observations that you identify in that annual review. So where do you go from that? Well, as part of our annual review, we do ask that you set goals with your employee. And the hope is always that you set the goal and then in coming weeks, you follow up on the goal. Realistically, I don't know how often that happens. Generally, we are human and we revisit the goals when the goals aren't being met. Sometimes we're positive and we say, hey, you set a goal that you were going to write X amount of dollars on a daily basis, and you're doing that, and that's great. But a lot of times we revisit goals when they're not met. It's that negative, mindset. The negative things tend to get the attention. So what do we do with that? Couple things. I've had managers have, high energy and say, I'm going to meet with my employees weekly. I'm going to meet with each of them every week, and we're going to set goals, and we're going to talk about their sales numbers, and we're going to get this done. Or you have performance improvement plans where you're obligated to meet with an employee weekly to do retraining until they meet those goals. Those strategies do work on a long term with the busy environment that we work in. I don't know that that's realistic. The program that I wanted to introduce to you guys is a program that is built around the concept that you want to have impactful performance related conversations every 6 to 8 weeks. So with this philosophy, by moving those meetings from the annual being the end all be all to a meeting every 6 to 8 weeks with each individual employee on your team, you're able to target specific goals. You're able to get feedback from your employee in terms of training, in terms of the culture in your building, in terms of what they need from you in terms of support or resources. And it's also feedback for your employee that you're seeing what they're putting out. You see the good, you see the areas that they need growth, and you're on the same team with them. So people like talking about themselves. They might not want to have these meetings every week any more than you would. So by setting them every 6 to 8 weeks, if you went to the latter and it was every 8 weeks, that's you meeting with your employees 6 times throughout the year. That's not that much. So I feel like that's manageable, that's doable. Strategies for success with this. I would target 2 to 3 goals each time you meet with your employees. So you're meeting every 6 to 8 weeks. That's step 1. Step 2 is that you are targeting 2 to 3 goals per meeting with your employee. Those goals should be SMART goals. So we've kind of covered that before, but specific, measurable. I always forget what the A stands for. Time bound, reasonable. So they have to be attainable goals. So you want to set them up for success. So you want them to be action focused. You don't want them to be vague. You don't want them to be, a try harder type situation. You want to give them actual actions that they can take and a goal that you can measure progress. And that's tricky. So if you need help with that, definitely let me know. But the goal should be specific and measurable and realistic is the gist of that. So you want to meet every 6 to 8 weeks. You want to set 2 to 3 goals with your employee. You want to be prepared, and you want your employee to be prepared. So the resources that I'm going to send you, there's great questions in terms of what you should ask yourself before going into a performance meeting. And there's questions that you can provide your employee in terms of things that they should think about and reflect on themselves before coming to a performance conversation. So I think preparation, I have a quote on my wall over here that says, in preparing for battle, I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. And that was from Eisenhower. And the reason that I like that quote is because I love planning. I love researching things. And I'm sure as managers, you guys come up with all kinds of ways that you're going to do trainings and have meetings and do all these things. And sometimes in reality, it never ends up being exactly what we want it to be. But our preparation and our planning is critical in it being successful, even if it doesn't end up looking the way that we wanted it to look. So I think your employee and you reflecting and planning to be in the right mindset before you have these meetings is critical. So meet every 6 to 8 weeks, set 2 to 3 effective goals, prepare for your meeting and have your employee prepare for their meeting so that you guys are in the right mindset before you have your performance conversation. And then my 4th strategy would be to stagger these meetings, put them on your calendar, either in your email or on Google Calendar, whatever you use, and stagger your meetings so that you're either meeting with one employee each week or you're meeting with 2 employees out of your group each week. But try to avoid having all of your performance meetings in the same week. I feel like that just leads to burnout. It makes you kind of lose focus. You don't know who you addressed what with, and it's not realistic with the way that we operate. So I feel like if you can stagger those performance meetings so that you're doing 1 to 2 a week, you won't get overwhelmed by it. You won't get off schedule with it, and you'll be able to effectively focus on your individual employee. So those are my tips for using the performance management strategies. Every 6 to 8 weeks, focus on 2 to 3 goals. You and your employee prepare before you meet, and then stagger your performance meetings throughout the month so that you're not doing them all at one time. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you appreciate the resources and that they're useful for you. And if you have any follow-up questions, obviously you know where to find me. All right, happy training. Thank you guys.